As Ken said, my name is Richard Kennedy, and I have the great privilege to serve as the Executive Director of the Tennessee Commission on Children and Youth. The Commission is an independent, nonpartisan state agency established by the Tennessee General Assembly, and our primary goal is to ensure that the policies and programs of the state effectively promote and protect the health, well-being, and development of children and youth in the state. So I will have to tell you that following a presentation from Oak Ridge National Laboratories, anytime this year was never on my bingo card. And I can tell you that when I first received an email from Ken about the event today and the work that you all do, my first inclination was, we don't do infrastructure work. That's not what we focus on at the Commission on Children and Youth. But as I kept thinking, and as I had the opportunity to talk with the two amazing men to my left, I realized that we do all have a role to play in improving outcomes for children and youth. One of my favorite personal stories is that of a 6-year-old little girl who was in first grade. And as she was walking in her neighborhood one day, she was interacting with a neighbor, and the neighbor said, "How is it that you came to be so smart?" And the little girl, with her response, was so simple and so endearing and profound at the same time. And her response was, "Because my teacher thought I was smarter than I was, I was." And so I truly very much believe that for most of our children and youth, they rise to meet the expectations that we have of them. So as you all gather here to explore how sustainable development and infrastructure initiatives and community partnerships are not only transforming physical landscapes, but I want you to think about how this work can profoundly impact the lives of children, youth, and families in your communities and in your state. This discussion will center on not only the what and how of certain initiatives, but more importantly on the why. Why is it critical for all of us and all of our communities to care deeply about improving outcomes for our youngest members, regardless of where we sit or the work that we do? We all know that children and youth are the future of our communities. Their health, well-being today shape the fabric of our society tomorrow. When we invest in initiatives like BlueOval City and the work that the United Way of West Tennessee is doing, we're investing in the future vitality of our neighborhoods, towns, cities, and of our country. But here's why this should matter to all of us. Firstly, improving outcomes for children, youth, and families lays the foundation for a prosperous and resilient community. In the education space, we know that research tells us that for every $1 invested in high-quality early childhood education programs yields up to $7 in long-term benefits, including higher graduation rates, lower crime rates, and increased lifetime earnings. Healthy, well-educated children grow into productive adults who contribute to economic growth and social stability. By providing them with safe, supportive environments and opportunities for growth, we're ensuring a brighter future for everyone. Secondly, the well-being of children and families affects the overall health of our communities. Children who participate in regular physical activity have lower rates of obesity, diabetes, and other chronic health conditions. And it's not lost on me that I'm talking about obesity rates. Research from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention indicates that neighborhoods with safe parks, sidewalks, and playgrounds experience higher levels of physical activity among children, leading to improved health outcomes and reduced long-term health care costs. And thirdly, investing in the health and well-being of our youngest members fosters a sense of social cohesion and shared responsibilities. Communities with strong support systems and built environments for families report lower rates of crime, better mental health outcomes, and better mental health outcomes among residents. When we create these environments where children live, play, and thrive, whether through accessible parks, access to broadband, thoughtful planned neighborhoods, playgrounds, education, or supportive community programs, we strengthen the bonds that unite us as neighbors and citizens. Healthy, happy children build strong communities where everyone feels valued and included. And moreover, addressing the needs of children and youth and families through sustainable development strategies aligns with broader goals of environmental stewardship and social equity. According to the American Planning Association, well-designed communities can reduce vehicle miles traveled by up to 30%, which not only reduces air pollution, but also improves respiratory health among residents. Sustainable practices promote positive outcomes by ensuring that all members of our community have access to clean air, safe neighborhoods, and opportunities for growth. Improving outcomes for children, youth, and families is not just a moral imperative, it's an investment in the future vitality and prosperity of our communities, state, and nation. By nurturing the health, education, and well-being of our youngest members today, we're building a foundation for a brighter tomorrow for all. So as you guys continue your work, continue to innovate, collaborate, and advocate for sustainable development, which will leave a positive legacy for generations to come, let's keep children, youth, and families in mind as that work is happening. So in my very short couple of minutes, it was my job to lay the groundwork for the why with this presentation. But the most important part of the presentation and comments are going to come from the gentleman to my left, who are going to be able to talk about some real-world experiences and how they're navigating an interesting time in their communities. So the first person that I would like to introduce you all to is Mayor Alan Strabinsky. Mayor Strabinsky is the mayor of Stanton, Tennessee. So those of you who are not from Tennessee, Stanton is a pretty small rural town in West Tennessee. And being a native Tennessean, my experience with Stanton would be that it would be an exit that I would pass on the interstate on the way to Memphis. But Mayor Strabinsky's town and world changed drastically in September of 2021 when Ford Motor Company announced plans for a $5.6 billion manufacturing facility in his town. It is the largest investment in the state's history. Mayor Strabinsky, do you want to talk about your experience and work and lessons learned?
Thank you, Richard. Be glad to do that. Morning, y'all. Okay, so I got a really cool story to tell. It's an absolute blast, the most fun I've had in the last, I don't know how many years, probably since the day I got married. This is wonderful stuff. So anyway, there's a map right there. You can see that to the bottom of the map, that is Fayette County. We're talking about southwest Tennessee. So if you go to the left-hand side, down a little bit, that's Memphis. If you go to the right-hand side, go up, that's Memphis, and then Nashville. And we're in the middle of nowhere. We're surrounded by thousands of acres of cotton fields. This town of Stanton is roughly 500 people on a good day. 44% live below the federal poverty level. We've got no money whatsoever. It's me and 3 part-time employees run the whole town. And that was okay when we were just managing cotton fields. That's good. I'm all right with that. Suddenly, there was a guy named Franklin Smith in Haywood County. He was the Haywood County mayor. That's Haywood County, part of Haywood County, south part anyway. He got this idea. He wanted to put an OEM, y'all know what an OEM are, original equipment manufacturer, right there where that blue spot is. And I don't know what kind of magic he did, but he got folks all across the state to park money, put money, and the state piled up over $50 million. And they held on to it. And you know, that's really hard to do for a politician to hang on to money, right? But they did it. And the state bought those 4,000 acres to put an OEM manufacturing plant there. And see that little piece of kind of black spots all coming together? That's Stanton. There's miles of absolutely nothing around it. The reason Ford and SK made a joint venture right there, okay? And that was in 2011. Been that long? No, it's 21. Yeah, that's it, 21. Time gets confusing. So anyway, they decided that they were going to focus right there, and that's in our backyard. I mean, they've got a Stanton zip code. I mean, they get their mail from Stanton, and it's just massive. And so when I heard the announcement, first thing I did is I asked an engineering company to do a population study. How many people am I going to have living in that green area? Because those jobs just on the blue is 6,000 jobs. Right now we have 6,000 construction workers building this massive, big, huge building. And what are we going to do with the construction workers? What are we going to do about these 6,000 people? Where's my new friend Phil? Where'd he go? He said he'd be here. Phil calls this a high-quality problem. And I have to agree with him. So here we've got a high-quality problem. So I asked people, the engineering firm, how many people am I going to have in that green area? And the answer came back, you're at 500 now. By 2035, you're going to have over 10,000 people. We can only handle, in our water and sewer capacity, 700 houses. That's it. And by 2035, there's going to be 10,000 people flushing the toilet, taking the shower, and I'm going to be in deep yogurt. Well, except it's not going to be yogurt I'm deep in. So what am I going to do? Well, okay, so here's the saving grace, an absolutely saving grace. The state, in its wisdom, and I know I am using state and wisdom in the same sentence. In this case, it's actually true. They set aside $5 million to help little communities like us around BlueOval City. And they hired Gresham Smith. It's HRD, Younger Associates, but right there is Drew, okay? He and Isa Reeve, I cannot say enough good stuff about. She's absolutely phenomenal. And Drew works with Isa. They have been a lifesaver, and I mean that in every sense of the word. They have strategic vision, and they help bring that to the table. So we had to plan out a master plan and look at all aspects of it. So what I did is I decided that what we needed to do is we need to run a water and sewer line, because we're the only one that have water and sewer, right? It needs to go from Stanton down to the mega site where there's a fire station, and they could not access the water on BlueOval City. I don't even want to talk about that. So they didn't have enough water to put its own fire out because they couldn't run a sprinkler. And they need water and sewer. And then the TCAT, the Tennessee College of Applied Technology, they're teaching mechatronics. And I had to go, yeah, I know what that is. So they're teaching mechatronics with 600 kids. And they're going to build a YMCA with 1,500 kids to take care of the kids the parents who are working in. They need water and sewer. And then my buddy down in Fayette County, actually 42, he's got no water and sewer. He said, we need water and sewer too, so we need to do that. And we got no money. How do you do that? Well, the last couple of years I've been working really hard, dancing and singing and doing all kinds of stuff. But we got $11.6 million grants. We're high poverty, but a lot of loan too. Millions of dollars of checks. Scared the hooey out of me. And we ran water and sewer from there all the way down past the bottom of that map. Okay, exit 42. So we were able to supply all those folks. And that's all well and good. But that's just water and sewer. So let me see if I can do this. This hangs over my desk. It's handwritten, I know, but this is it. This is the comprehensive plan. So let's start on the upper side, on the right-hand side, and we have three things. You see them on number 1, 2, and 3. Future land use plan. What are we going to use the land for? You got to manage that. Otherwise, developers run you over, and they're going to do whatever the heck they want, and they don't care what your town looks like when they're done, as long as they got the money and they're gone. And number 2 is you got to have a transportation plan. And so our strategic plan that Drew and particularly Isaac did contains a bit of a transportation plan. And the third one is utilities. So I've been focusing on utilities and transportation and land use plans, and that's all I can do because it's just me and 3 part-time employees. Well, not only did the state give us Drew and Isa, who I dearly love, but we have people rise up. Ford helped us as well by working jointly with United Way. And he's the next speaker, but I'm going to talk just a little bit about it. So these are all comprehensive things I got to deal with, and I can only deal with 3. We got housing. Gentrification, some people say that's a good thing. To me, it's a bad thing. I got people in huge amounts of poverty, and the rents are going up. You know, the state bought that land for $10,000 an acre. Just before that, land was selling for $3,000 an acre. It's $10,000 an acre. The state paid, so everybody in the three counties said, "My land's worth $10,000 an acre too." Great. So Ford makes the announcement, and suddenly everybody's land prices are going out the roof. I have in my town one lot, 1 acre, selling. They're asking $2.1 million for one. There's nothing around me. There's cotton fields. Yeah, there's this massive building going on down there, but there's nothing there. So rents are going up too, because if they get 6,000 construction workers who are willing to pay $1,200 a month to park their RV in your front yard, not in our front yard, somebody else, then the rates go up, the rents go up, and what are my people in fixed income going to do? They got to move to Tuscaloosa, Alabama to find affordable rent. Tuscaloosa, Alabama's a long way away. And now where's their support system, their family? I don't know. It's breaking people apart. Some people think gentrification is good, and I think there's an issue. Are you waving at me? Okay, I'm supposed to stand right here. Okay, I got a mic now. Housing is a huge issue. What do you do about the kids who got to live in a house? What are you going to do with them? And they need babysitters, and when they need health care and all the things that kids need. And then ECD, how do you try to get somebody to spend millions of dollars to put up a retail store, office building, or a hotel when there's nothing but cotton fields around? Nothing, zippo. And then education. All the people in Stanton, because of the 1960s and civil rights and stuff, they were separate but equal. They were separate, but they were not equal. I got pictures to prove it. Everybody went to school in Brownsville. That's 20 minutes away and then 20 minutes back. So my kids on the bus route is 40 minutes. My kids are losing almost 2 hours a day of education. That's a serious issue. How can I talk to the Haywood County School Board and convince them to build a school in Stanton? And they go, "No, we need an athletic field for the high school." Okay, yeah, whatever. Police and fire, we don't have a police department. We got a volunteer fire department. We got 6 guys. How are we going to do with that? And people need things like recreation, parks and recreation. We played in the streets. That's all we do. I put up 2 basketball goals in the parking lot. That's our parks and recreation. And then we have, what was that last one over there? Arts and culture. We got 6,000 people from who knows where in the world, and they're going to bring their culture in. And that's wonderful. But how do we preserve our culture too? Because this is our town, and that's our history. How do we preserve it with new money? So the Tennessee Arts Commission has been phenomenal. That's another for that. And then the last one is local government. That's me. I don't want to hire people if I don't have to. Besides that, I can't pay anybody because we got no money. So this is a huge opportunity for us. It's a high quality problem to have, but we get people like Ford working with United Way to step in, and they're going way deeper level than that. They're handling things that I cannot possibly handle, and that's where Matt comes in, and he's my new best friend. Matt, come on.
So the mayor, we spent a lot of time together. We were together just yesterday meeting with Ford, which is almost a weekly thing at this point. But to provide a little further context, so he mentioned the high poverty rate in Haywood County. So the median household income in Haywood is right around $44,000 a year. To put that in perspective, in the state of Tennessee, the median household income is $65,000. So you have almost a $21,000 gap there. And then, as he mentioned, though you have above that, you have about 23% of the population living in poverty, so they're under the federal poverty threshold. You have another 30% on top of that, from United Way perspective, we call ALICE, Asset Limited Income Constrained Employed. Another way of saying working poor. People who are working every single day like you and I are, but often just a flat tire away from financial trouble. And so this is the context that we're talking about. And yet this is the community that Ford, one of the largest companies in the world, decided to put a $5.6 billion invested plant, right? And that has now ballooned to over $10 billion for that investment. And hire, as was mentioned earlier, approximately 8,000 to 10,000 workers over the next decade. And so there are significant challenges. Haywood County is, a picturesque American rural community. It's a type of place that you would love to raise kids in, but very often that when those kids graduate college, it's a place that they leave and typically don't return. And so one of the organizing principles for us as we work with Ford to begin to think about what's happening, the transformation that's taking place in this community, was centered around the idea of the American dream. So back in the 1950s, when they surveyed people around the country, about 80% of people believed that they could do better than their parents, than the generation before them. Now, only about 40% of people believe that. So I know it's come up a couple of times today already. When we think about the political divisions in our country and the sense of divide and segregation and all those things, much of that is seated in this idea of a lack of hope, particularly in rural communities. And so again, that was our organizing principle. How can we make sure that as this huge investment comes into this community, that families and households who have called that place home for generations can be part of that transformation, can be part of that change, that they can benefit as well. And so if you go to do you have the clicker? You have the clicker. So the kind of idea that we came up with was this idea of a front door or an access point. And so what you see on that map is the impact zone. And so that investment in BlueOval City will have massive impact and transformation for all of West Tennessee. But we know from the limited amount of funding that we have to invest, both United Way and also Ford, in the social side of things, that if we were to spread that investment across multiple counties, you're only going to do about this much work. And so where was the greatest area of need? Well, it was right there in this triangle right around Stanton, right around BlueOval City, with Brownsville, Covington, and Summerville being your tips of that triangle. And within that triangle, you have about 40,000 people. Only about 15% of them have a bachelor's degree. Their median household income is even lower than the rest of the county and the area around them. And again, about 51% of them are ALICE. And so we knew when we began to do these community advisory group meetings about a year ago, and we start listening to the community and its leaders and just everyday people, we started asking them what they felt their needs were. And what we found out really quickly, as you can imagine, it wasn't one or two or three things. It was a myriad of issues. It was things like transportation and mobility. It was things like workforce development. It was things like food access and housing and so many other things. And we couldn't address every single one of those things just as United Way or even as Ford alone. But rather, we realized that we needed a collection of entities through a collective impact model to come together to begin to provide these services uniformly. And so we began to do that, design this process. And if you'll click to the next slide. And so you think about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. We wanted to think about, okay, how can we again ensure that someone who's grown up in this community can have their basic needs met, but to ultimately end up in a place of social and economic mobility, right? Where they can rise. And so one of the things that we began to look at was, in order for that to be the case, a lot of research has been done. Raj Chetty, economic professor at Harvard, has done a lot of research on this, that the best way to make that possible is through socioeconomic mixing, creating the types of green spaces and others where you have people from different socioeconomic backgrounds intermingling together. And when you do that, the chances of children who grow up in those types of environments and experience that, their opportunity to go to college and also finish college, have greater career access, significantly increases. And that's precisely the type of front door, open door facility that we're now trying to create. I'm speaking a little bit not directly because we have the announcement and groundbreaking coming up on August 14th, and I'm not permitted to yet to say what it is. But it's coming, and it will completely transform this community alongside BlueOval City. In fact, Ford is invested, as you heard the mayor speak about, Ford and the state of Tennessee, in a TCAP facility right across the street from BlueOval City that will be training employees that will then go on and work at the plant. Likewise, you have Ford that has created the Ford Discovery Center in downtown Brownsville. That will be the hub for employment. So if you want to get a job, you go over to Ford Discovery Center. You can walk in. They even will have VR goggles to show you what the floor of the plant will look like. You can take a tour of the plant. You can apply right then, do a drug screening, and hopefully have a job when you walk out. So if you're ready to be employed, you can go there. If you don't have the skill set, you go to TCAT. But what if you don't meet either one of those requirements? That's where you come to the front door. That's where we'll be able to begin to prepare people to enter and get the things and the skills that they need to go to one of those other places. And so infrastructure is so incredibly important. So as the mayor said, they're working on the sewer side and all that. We're working on the social infrastructure, on how can we make sure that these individuals and these families have access to workforce and to be able to be a part of this long-term benefit that's coming to this community. And so I believe I have I'm over about 30 seconds. And so there's so much more we could share with you about how all of this is taking place and more specifics. I'm happy to talk with you guys more outside, but thank you guys for allowing us to be here today.